love. I believe it's what we all need to have a connection to in our lives. In fact, actually, if you aren't connected to the part of you that's driven by love, well then, you're not really seeking freedom. You're just running from yourself. I realize that if you truly want a life of freedom, well then you're going to have to give up a lot of security. And also you're going to need to really think about what's going to animate you in your life. And it's like, well, we have this deep desire for love. And now you'll find this really beautiful. The way that life's made is actually technically revolving around that very thing. I believe love to be one of the most transcendent topics. In fact, actually, it's one that I'm currently experiencing at the moment. And I want to be able to really share a lot of the inner world that I'm experiencing and bring you even closer, because today it's not only going to change your life. I believe one of the most important things is going to allow you to face the parts of yourself that you've been running from so that you can actually have a connection. I want to really make an emphasis on that today, is that there's a serious emphasis on what it really takes to have a connection. Like, what exactly does that mean? So I was taking the Beauty and the Beast story. I think it's one of the best ones that we have at the moment. I'm going to be playing into a lot of stories, but I want to be able to share just how transcendent love is. In life, I believe the love that we seek is the love that we never have, that we go on a journey to realize that we've always had. So if you agree to seeking that love that you seek in your life, just remember, it's going to change you when you go on that journey. I was thinking about this, and it was, how damn hard is it to receive compliments from people you admire? Wouldn't you think, like, what's the natural response to somebody that you love that gives you a compliment? We almost think, well, validation followed by relief. Actually, on the contrary, what typically happens by people that you really desire, that you're really attracted to, that you really want to have in your life is, oh fuck, they think that about me? I don't. Insecurities, insufficiencies, inadequacies, doubt. And I also find it very interesting because in my life, the one love I've seeked is to be tender, affectionate, kind, caring, feminine, sweet. What was the one love I never got? Every single one of those characteristics. Now, this isn't just you, this is going to be you and the human race, to realize something very important here. That if you were to get rid of that very love, you would also get rid, if you were to get rid of those very insecurities and wounds that every human being has, you would get rid of that very love. So perhaps maybe what we're trying to do here is not change who you are like a cosmetic surgeon, but to evaluate the very part of you that you have a hard time loving, to then realize, why is that not worth love? For fuck's sake, think about that. And it's so interesting because just like you, I'm sure you scroll through the social medias. I have YouTube, that's the one that I spend the most time on. And I don't know what's been coming up, but holy fucking hell, people love touching up their face. And you're probably like, well, why? You know, you take somebody like Michael Jackson, for example. It's like, his story in his life is his father called him Big Nose. And that's the one thing that he had 10 rhinoplasties throughout his whole life. And that's terrifying because if you look at the guy, he has everything to live for. But of course, that's not how life really works, does it? A lot of the time, we're faced with the biggest struggle and the biggest challenge in our life, and that is love. And I want to make that very clear, that if you're listening to this video, this is going to challenge you deeply. Because what I want you to be paying attention to, more than anything in your whole life, is that your very aspiration of that love is under the mindset that you aren't going to struggle in the face of it. And there are so many stories, and I could just kind of pick them off the top of my head. Beauty and the Beast. Clearly, her relationship is she's the prettiest girl in town, and she knows it. Well, not only is that, you know, her father's kind of this weak pushover, and the only guy that really likes her seems to be this irredeemable Gaston. I'm sure you've heard this before, maybe Jordan Peterson has talked about it. What's her alternative out of the three men? Well, her dad, that's clearly not going to work. Gaston, that's definitely not going to work. Beast. Okay, now here's also the thing about Beast, is that he was once a prince. Now, the very interesting thing about the whole story is it is a story of love, and to understand that a story of love is also a story of transformation. It's also a story of being able to bring out the ugliest parts of yourself and bring them close. And you guys can take this for the rest of your life, which is integrating the darkest parts of yourself and the parts of you that you feel can never be loved is a love story. The integration process of two parts of ourselves is a love story. And so, of course, you know, Beauty is deeply challenged. What do you think she's looking at when she sees Beast? Dark male characteristics. What do you think happens to women when they avoid those dark male characteristics? They end up with a Gaston. And you could put your hands up, ladies, if you've had your narcissistic abusive relationships. It typically comes from your naivete, understanding the challenge that is required from you when you have to face the parts of yourself that you reject. What does that pop up as? Beast. Now, the whole story revolves around one thing. In the center of the castle, well, the one place you cannot go, aka my heart, there is a rose in a glass case representing the delicacy of. And also, by the way, the absolute, and this is for everybody that's watching this, is that there are points in our lives where, like, if you don't love those parts of you, you die. Because that's you. Of course you die. And so, of course, the very process is by which, he's challenged by her, she's challenged by him. Kind of something like this. Now, the most beautiful part of the movie is where she's holding Beast in her arms as he's bleeding out on the floor after the fight with Gaston. And she cries, and she goes, I love you. And he transforms. This is the love that transforms. The movie The Matrix with Trinity. He gets shot, and then she says, I love you. It's resurrecting, almost. Now, here's also the other thing, is that it's transformative. But it's real love. That real love wakes the sleeping beauty. Another story for you. You have two people running away from the dark parts of themselves. Well, one of them is a king. He doesn't want to be one. So you could already say that's part of like the 5 categories of werewolf, vampire, billionaire, surgeon, pirate, right? You could say he's probably a billionaire pirate at this point. So he's an ultimate sex appeal, right? But then, okay, you have the princess who has been hidden from her shadow, which is Maleficent. And she's taken into the forest, pretty much all the unknown things that you're going to bump into there, falls in love with the first guy that she sees, and then realizes what is it going to take to have true love is a deep, deep challenge. So what ends up happening is he thought he would just be getting world-class pussy in the forest, and she thought that she fell in love with the love of her life. But here's the thing about that girl. You're forgetting the part of her that's like a dragon that you need to interact with, that's going to require a lot of truth and a lot of virtue and a lot of courage, which are embodied in the tools that he picks up along the way. And now, a question for all of you. What good is your love if it's not real? How do you know it's not real? It doesn't challenge you. There's so many ways that this can't be challenged. You could have a marriage by which it's just constant burden and responsibility and duty. But you could be with a fuck buddy who's all fun and play, but goes nowhere. You ultimately realize that both of them are failures because they're not a manifestation of an authentic individual who understands what it is to live with both, because that's a challenge. And so, of course, this mending process of him facing that dragon to then actually realize he's earned the princess, more than earned, he realized he's grow up and become a man to then eventually waken the sleeping beauty. Remember, true love's kiss, not bullshit ass kiss, true love's kiss. And that wakes us up because when you realize, wait, this has to be real. Okay, now what makes it real? Now, you're also going to love this. Everything you value is on the other side of the thing you are the most afraid of facing that terrorizes you. So much to the point, like as if you're facing a kraken as you're on your ship and the island of your dream is on the other side. I also find it just so interesting. Why is it the most dangerous of creatures lurk around the most valuable things? Across the board. Now this is the beauty of it. What happens when we start to face that kraken or that darkness or that dragon is, why would you do that to begin with? So I was speaking about this in my lecture today. That love that you seek, where do you think you're going to get it? If you had it, how would it look on you? Why would you be willing to go to the depths of hell in order to find those parts of yourself and love them? Love in a lot of ways isn't just so much something you find. It's something that is birthed in opposition, meaning it is a fight and a struggle. And that fight and struggle really brings out, it's like you start to go inward, opposed to just the constant externalization of your life. It's for once you actually start realizing, how the fuck can I ask life of anything if I haven't even experienced it on a minute level internally? I don't even know what I'm looking for. My whole life and relationships, all I've ever done was go for people that mistreat me. And it's like, well, why? I know objectively I have all of the things of value that I do connect to. When is it enough? My God, the billion-dollar question of all of our lives. And it's like, well, it's enough when you're willing to love those parts of you and do the right thing with your inadequacies, your insufficiencies, and without your grand prophecies. Love is transformative. Love makes Neo the one. Love makes Beast the prince. Love inspires goodness. And I believe for once in our life, we believe in ourselves that we can be great. It's just too much for me. Like even when I speak about it, I begin to realize that the magnitude of love is beyond my own comprehension, because guess what? I know that I have enough here. But for the rest of my life, it's going to consistently progress, because that's just how big it is. It's not something you could just experience all at once. It's infinity times infinity opposed to infinity on its own. When we realize that we have this in ourselves, and it's actually the thing is that you create it in the opposition. So that's what I was talking about earlier, which is if you're willing to face the parts of yourself in order to experience what's on the other side of that, you have to be willing to experience a lot of the insecurities that surround it. And so this was happening to me recently and with a lot of my clients, which was, why is it the thing that you desire the most, you feel the least worthy of? Well, that's kind of like a paradox. Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's the love that you never got. But it's also the love that you seek. It's also the love that you think your parents can give you that they can't. Because it's your job to go on the adventure to find it. The beautiful part of this is, and I want to make this very clear, you are a pioneer in your life in the investigation of the love that you can give yourself in this world. And now here's the thing about love, is you have to be able to give it. I know that often we look to receive it. You can't receive anything that you're not willing to give. It's like a fault in the rule of the universe, meaning that it doesn't exist and you have an expectation that you are entitled to that. Believe me, you don't want to be entitled to it. And so I was writing the other day and I had a lot of these dreams. And these dreams were shining a lot of light on this like unworthiness around love. I was noticing the girl that I was with in the dream I could never be intimate with. There was always a blockage. Something was stopping me from that. And I felt despair. And this was not just one dream I had. I kept having these dreams and I realized, well, what's one of the most human things that you could experience in relationship to the most transcended experience? The most human thing you could experience in relationship to love is, I'm not enough for it. The most transcendent thing you can do is believe in it and behave that you are enough for it. The belief gives you the embodiment of the behaviors, which changes the way that you feel. Now, that's the most important thing you're going to do in your life. And so I was writing a lot about these dreams, and all of these inadequacies and insecurities came up. And, I've been learning to embrace them. And that's in a lot of my videos. If you've watched them, you can kind of be part of this process collectively with me, because we're all doing this together, whether you like it or not, at 80 or at 25 or at 15. We're collectively doing this. And I believe the job of the leader is really to give the initial 20 feet and to somehow embody that at the highest level possible so that others can do that same dance. Yes, it's at the cost of you tripping and falling, but I do believe that there's an internal faith that I have in relationship to presenting this to you, because we're going to do this together. I know what I know, and that's enough for me to venture into the darkness, to light that torch and let that light extend into the perimeter around me. I think that's exactly how you investigate those parts of you. You have to shine a light. And I believe that light is just generally through the intention of, I want to know what this is because I want to connect to this. So I was writing, I was journaling, and a lot of that came up and I realized, what was the one part in the dream that I enjoyed the most? I loved the tenderness, softness, caring, affectionate, feminine characteristics. And it's interesting, as I wrote those things down in the dream, I felt it. And if I felt it, I said, oh my God, I have it in me. And that inspires hope. I also realized that I have it in me. When I gave it to me, I felt enough for it. Now here's the truth. If you do not experience what surrounds it, you'll never be able to experience it. I put the pen down, I closed the book, and I took a deep breath and I realized, I'm okay. I'm okay. There was something internal that I believe that I did not have access to that I'm now recognizing. And so, by the way, you might say, what was the opposition? Well, in a lot of ways, the insecurities, the doubts, the fears, the parts of me that I felt I didn't have a relationship with, that I think that I didn't know. I faced it. I faced that. And I believe that when we face those very things, the behavior of showing up to that is the embodiment of love. One of my clients, to end this off, shared this with me recently, and he said, I met this girl and she's better than I could I don't even know why she's with me. She takes care of me. My kids love her. She's there for me in ways that no other woman has. She's gorgeous. And my God, I can't stop thinking about her. My advice to him was, okay, hang around her. Don't resist that you feel those things in relationship to her. And somehow, for once in his life, he was able to realize that the love that you seek deeply challenges us because it requires us to go inward as to why we don't feel enough for it. What comes up? Those are the exact things that you need to start interacting with and evaluating. Now, the beauty of that is, well, finally, for once in your life, you don't have to push love away. You can invite it in as you go deeper into your soul and as you look into the parts of yourself that you've been running from your whole life, because all the parts of you that you've been looking for are there.